Alright, welcome back to FaceItNet. In my last video, I showed you guys how to install VMware ESXi 6.7. So now let's go and have a look at the VMware ESXi and see what else we can do to customize the ESXi host itself. So for us to start, I'm going to log into my ESXi. So as you can see, it got an IP address 200.129. So I'm going to enter the IP address in a web browser and enter. So it will ask you to enter username and password. So let's go and enter username and password. Right, now we are in the ESXi server's web management interface. So this is sort of an independent, a platform independent, because it's running on a web browser, right? It's running the web browser based services, so it's very much platform independent. So now we can see this screen shows you the information about the host machine. So as you can see, it gives you the hardware components that we have on this machine. So even though it's installed and configured on a virtual machine, you can see it's taking this as a hardware specification. So we have got 16 GB RAM and we have got a virtual flash here. So this is the virtual flash size, right? And then it got a network. So the host machine, this has a host name of localhost. We can of course go and change the host names later on. I'll show you how to change the host name. And this has got an IP address here and DNS IP address. This is pretty much the gateway IP address of NAT, and then the gateway IPv6 is enabled, and then it's connected to VMware networks. Also, this has got a data store here. So this is a physical storage that has attached to this machine. And then if you come down to your right hand side, it tells you this VMware is using ESXi 6.7 image file profile, and also it gives you the system information like how long it's been running and when did you install the operating system, all this information. Here you have a performance summary. So if you just hover over, if you move your mouse here, you can see the usage of the system over the time period. So this information can be seen through the home page, right? For you to change, as I said, the host name, you can't just change the host name over here, right? What you have to do is you have to go back to the the console and we can change the host name over there. So if you go here in the console and if you type F2, it will ask you to enter the password. So enter your password. Now you are in the management interface. So if you scroll down to troubleshooting options, you can of course enable, sorry. So if you go down to the config keyboard, management network, IP addresses. So if you go to management network and if you go to DNS configuration, here you have the host name. So you can obtain DNS server details and a host name automatically, or you can manually assign those information. So I'm going to say manually assign the information, and I'm going to come back and change the host name from localhost to maybe say ESXi 6.7, right? And then all you have to do is enter. So you don't want the alternative DNS. I got my DNS, so I've got the DNS details. And also you can provide the suffix as well, DNS suffix. If you want, you can put ESXi 6.7 dot local as the suffix name. I know I don't want to have two dots, so I'll say ESXi-7 dot local. Right, so for you to change this or to set these changes, hit enter, right, come back. It will ask you to restart the network, apply changes, hit yes, right, and you just need to restart the system. So once you restart the system, then the services will activate. So let's quickly go back, right, and restart, right. So F11 to restart. Let's hit F7. Now it's going to change the name. As you can already see, the host name has changed to ESXi6, right? So let's quickly go back to my web interface so you can see it's loading. So I'm going to going back to my web interface and refresh. So let's wait for this to load completely. Of course, it's loading and hasn't got the IP address yet. Once we got the IP address, we will see that changes will be applied. So I'm just waiting for this to load. Once the configuration has been loaded, we should be able to see the changes. All right, so it's still loading. All right, so once done, completed, yep, you can see the IP address ESXi 6. So I can now log in. There you go, and I'll put the username and the password. Right, there you go. Now the name has changed right here. The system name has changed. Here hostname has changed. So that's pretty much the basic to change the information. But some other information that we can look at it here. If you go into management, you can see date and time. So the system gets the date and time. So you can change these settings by just clicking edit here, and you can just go back here in the edit settings, or you can go and say NTP server, right? So you can specify the NTP server that you want to start with. So what we can do is we can enable the NTP server. In Australia, we have got different NTP servers. So I'm going to put the Australian based NTP server, one of the NTP server, and I'll put it here, save. All right, and then you have to go to action, NTP server start. So now this is going to use the NTP services to start. So you can see NTP is running. So now it's taking the time from Australian based NTP server. So this is to make sure that your system has got the right NTP or time services configured. So you can do these all changes by just going back to the NTPs, right? And also if you go to auto starts, we will find more information like, so start delay, stop delay, and all this. So if you click here, you can change these settings, start delay settings, and you can do that, right? What actions needs to be done, those settings for the virtual machines. And of course, once you configure the virtual machines, you can go and configure virtual machines individually to when they should start and when they should stop, right? So those delays can be configured individually to virtual machines. And you got additional swap. I'm not going to go into swap. This is where VMware use this data store to store the configuration details. And then you got the hardware details and the power management details, and this tells you the licensing. So since it's running on evaluation mode, you see like there's no license, right? And of course you can assign license by clicking here. If you have got a license, you can enter the license to set up the ESXi with the license version. And the packages installed with this ESXi and the services running here, you can change the services. If you want to change any services, you can go back and stop and restart, right? So that's options are available. TSM services is here, so you can enable, disable, and then the security for users. So lockdown mode to keep the system locked down, so you can do that lockdown mode. And you have different users with a different admin rights, so we can create different roles here. And then once you create the roles, you can go and attach those roles to specific users here. That's the digital certificates that are attached to this system. So that's a sort of a pre-existing digital certificates, and then the authentication. So these are some of the configurations we have. And also if you go into monitor, you can see the specific configuration or specific monitoring of your ESXi server. So your hardware, the events that have happened on the system, the task, log files. Of course, you can go and watch, see the log files, and then the notification. So these are pretty much the custom level configuration that we can see in these virtual machines, right? So if in case if you got if you go to pretty much manage certificates, right? If you got your own certificates, you can import your own certificates. Like you can create your own self-signed certificate, or you can purchase the SSL certificate and import it, so that we can avoid the error message we receive when we install the operating or access the VMware services. So that's part of configurations can be also done through this certificate import, right? So that's pretty much what we have with the ESXi customization, right? So that's the host machine customization, right? So this is pretty much enough for us to see what we need to customize. And now let's go on to create new virtual machines. So the whole task here I'm going to show you after this on the next video, creating new virtual machines, right? So keep in mind, this is the customization where you can do all the custom configurations. And of course, if you go to http ESXi6, if you enter, it's a local one, so it shouldn't be working. As long as if my DNS points to the same one, then it shouldn't be a problem. So if you look at it here, ESXi6, right, that's the name, but it should be the local one. That's the reason you can't see it, because now it's going to internet. By just entering, it goes to internet. So what you can do is you can have an X entry, and if you have an entry in your DNS, then you don't need to type in the URL with the IP address. You can just type the name to access your ESXi server. So you need to make sure that information is being added to your DNS server, right? So that's pretty much about the customization. In the next video, I'll show you how to create virtual machine and configure those virtual machines. Thanks for watching. To watch my space, or on my next video, I'm going to create a new virtual machine and show you how to install.